I hold extremely racist views towards a certain ethnic group. How can I deal with that? I can't just magically change how I feel about them. Well, you can recognize it and know that you want to change it. That is a fantastic start. I'd recommend two things. First, you need to think long and hard about why you hold these views. Is it because of your birth culture? Were you taught it in school? Did you gain these views online? From friends? It's difficult to change yourself without knowing what and why you want to change. Second, you need to expose yourself to this group. Find media made by and about them, try some cultural food, learn their practices and traditions. It's a lot easier to not hate someone when you know how they live. Also, just remember this: we're all human beings. Growing up, I lived in Detroit during the race riots, and in school, I learned about WW2, and both caused me to hate certain races. It took me until my middle teens to realize it wasn't the people I should hate, as it was a small number of those groups that were like that. As individuals, there was nothing to dislike, as what my anger was aimed at wasn't the individual. Perhaps you need to figure out why you hate them: cultural, personal experience, news, or something else. The only superpower that humans have is the ability to change our minds. You can access this power every time you're aware that your mindset ain't right. You might consider checking out the group Life After Hate https. They are a support group and resource for people and loved ones of people struggling in the grip of hate. A lot of their work focuses on members of organized hate groups, but they are by no means limited to that. For instance, they also deal with people who get caught up in online hate communities. Many of the people who work with them are themselves former hate group members who walked away and now work as peer mentors. So there are definitely people there who have been where you were and may be able to connect with you in ways that others can't. Consider checking it out and seeing whether there might be some help for you there. And best of luck, friend. It's good that you recognize the problem, and I hope you can find your way. There's only two things I hate in this world: people who are intolerant of other people's cultures and the Dutch. You can have a little racism as a treat. Lol, but seriously try to see where it is coming from. For me, when I was younger, I was parroting my father's ideas to get his approval. So when that mindset kept on, I had to deconstruct why approval was so important to me, and what needs weren't getting met that would be turned into expressing toxic ideas. An acquaintance I know her stemmed from feeling obsolete as an aging female and racism helping her regain a sense of importance, so looking into why she felt unheard and seen, and why she put so much importance on centering herself. It's a process, and rarely ever simple, but it can be done if you are willing to work inward. Also, exposure therapy works. I've met people who went into prison racist against Black PPL, but come out smoothed out. Not full on American History X, but similar. In the household I grew up in, my father was very racist. He would often make jokes and comments at another race's expense, then sort of say how it was just a joke. Of course, he never made those kind of statements about anyone in our race. When I was a teenager, I remember riding in the truck with him, and there was an elderly woman walking on the grass beside the road. She was carrying a young toddler on her hip and holding the hand of a kid maybe 6-8 years old. There were no sidewalks there, and they were just walking and minding their own business in the grass. He pulled close to the side of the road, almost clipping the toddler's head as he intentionally splashed them with a mud puddle, laughed a lot, and thought it was all great fun. I remember him making some comment about how they just needed to learn how to swim. The thing I remember the most was the look on the face of the woman when I looked back in the side mirror. I hated my father's racism and vowed not to be the same. Sometimes, you just need to make a decision and do it. Only you can choose to change how you feel. Do you actually want to change it? Exposure and possibly therapy. A lot of hate is based in ignorance. The fact that you are tired of the hate and asking yourself this question should let you know you are a decent human and you are starting to see anyone can be a decent person as well. Just gotta let go of all the shit you were taught growing up. Yes, a lot of stereotypes are based in a grain of truth, but everyone on Earth should be able to stand on their own individual merits. Also, not liking certain things about another culture or ethnic group isn't necessarily wrong. It's wishing and acting out terrible things on them just because you don't like them that is wrong. I bet when you break it down and rationalize it, then the racism part of it doesn't make sense. Now, is it racism, or is it a socio-economic or cultural group that you are at odds with? A lot of people where I am from are weary of travelers gypsies. It's still a biased and bigoted view against people who have chosen a lifestyle that unfortunately clashes with the mainstream in some ways. Would it be right to say that the people you dislike exhibit behaviors more cultural than anything else, like race? Therapy, exposure, or otherwise would likely be your best bet. Go talk with one. Get to know them. That's hard. You have to actively engage in tasks that require cooperation to build up trust so that you can see them as an individual. They, whoever they are, have more to them than you think. Finding common ground getting around your initial rejection is the hard part. Sudden thought, are there racist support groups? This has to be a thing. It's controversial among left-wing groups. And many subs, you get banned for saying it. But it's a step in the right direction. Culture. Not all cultures are equal. Not all cultures deserve the same respect, or any respect whatsoever. It's categorically wrong to say someone's ethnicity or skin color dictate who they will be or who they are as a person. It's all about the environment they were brought up in, their life experiences, and what they may or may not have been taught. You may have something against the particular cultural practices and behavior of a certain group of people. It's okay to not be okay or comfortable with what they believe in, how they behave, what kind of excuses they use to justify it. But to say it's because they are white, brown or pink or have a certain face or appearance is definitely something you should know is wrong-headed and can be removed entirely from your mentality. I was raised in a racist household with racist parents and racist siblings and racist extended family, and went to a public school that had a total of 3-6 non-white students K-12. Recognizing that it's racist is a first step. That racism is inherently wrong. That the way of thinking you're experiencing is wrong. Not just ethically or morally wrong, but actually incorrect. Find and remind yourself of examples of people who don't meet the stereotypes and assumptions that racism toward that demographic are known for. It's a process, and it isn't an instant fix. At least for me, it was deeply ingrained for 18 years until I escaped into the real world. It's taken the following 18 to deprogram myself. Do you hate their genetics or a cultural trait they share? Question: is it their ethnicity or their culture? Living in an area with many race-oriented people, it seems common to associate someone's physical race with disliked cultural aspects. That seems bizarre to me. But maybe that's because I grew up in an ethnically homogeneous area with a prevailing culture I found distasteful? Unless I wanted to be racist to myself, I kind of had to learn to separate the two. Reframe your hate to the culture rather than the race. Well, examine why you hold the racist beliefs that you hold. Were you or your family personally wronged by someone of that ethnicity? Did you learn it from your parents? Is it just something you grew up with? The fact that you're openly wanting to change these feelings is great. You will need to examine the root cause before you can find the best solution. Everybody has biases, even the most anti-racist people on the planet. Examining those biases and changing our viewpoints to eliminate them is an ongoing process for everybody. Realize that whatever you think about the group tells you very little about any individual in that group, thus you should approach them as an individual.